Ross Tucker, former NFL lineman, the Ross Tucker podcast with us, and also something very unique for Valentine's Day for you and an idea for your loved one. We'll have that. Ross joins us on 365 Sports, and we signed this up for today because we knew that Tom Brady was going to retire again. Ross, obviously, this time it appears to be incredibly official. Your thoughts about it just again with Tom Brady?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of surprised. You know, it seemed like there was a lot of momentum towards him playing again. You know, there was a lot of talk that he wanted to play again, that he was going to play again. So it's really interesting because last year everybody said he was going to retire. You know, and I'm talking about like private conversations that I have with people that kind of know him or know his agent behind the scenes. And last year, it certainly felt like he was going to retire, and then he did, and then he came back. And then this year, it was the opposite. You know, I mean, this year it was a lot of talk that he wanted to keep playing, and a lot of talk about the Raiders. And now all of a sudden he retires. And, man, after what happened last year and just knowing him, I'd be really, really surprised if he came back this time.
Ross, I saw your tweet. It was maybe the first thing I saw after I watched the actual video about how this guarantees that Aaron Rodgers won't retire and for the other year because he wouldn't want to share the spotlight with Tom Brady at the Hall of Fame ceremony. And I got to tell you, I would be totally on Aaron Rodgers' side in that, because if you're Aaron Rodgers and in there with Tom Brady, it'd be like, you were amazing, Aaron. But, I mean, he's got 6 more Super Bowls than you.
Well, here's the thing. There would even be a possibility, when you think about J.J. Watt and Brady, I think there would be some possibility that Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I don't know. He probably still would be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he certainly would be second fiddle. I mean, there's no question that he wouldn't be second fiddle. And I just don't think he wants that. Imagine his whole career, he's played second fiddle and or been in the shadow of Tom Brady. I think the last thing he wants to have happen is to have his Hall of Fame moment once again be a situation where he's way overshadowed by Tom Brady. But by the way, he was never going to retire anyway. I mean, he's guaranteed $60 million. That would go against any human instinct anybody would ever have. All he needs to do is work from late July until the first week of January, and he gets $60 million. Like, I don't care how rich you are, bro, you're not turning that down.
Yeah, you be as spiritual and peaceful as you want to be, but you're still not turning down $60 million. I'm with you on that one. Ross, you not to, like, pull everything off your Twitter feed, but you did ask a great question as well in regards to the ramifications of Brady's retirement. We learned from Dana White at one point months ago that the Las Vegas Raiders were at one point in time going to be a landing spot for him and Gronk, and they were going to get the band back together in Vegas, and that obviously didn't work out. He ends up in Tampa. But then this time around, hey, thoughts that the Tampa time is running to a close. Derek Carr's not going to be in Vegas. Maybe the Raiders go that route at this point, but that's obviously not going to happen. So who will be the Raiders quarterback next year?
Yeah, I think there's some possibility of Aaron Rodgers, but that would surprise me because Josh McDaniels does not seem to me to be the type of coach that, number one, wants to pay a guy $60 million and take up that much cap space. But number two, I don't think McDaniels wants a quarterback that could kind of question him. I mean, I think he wants a quarterback that's going to do what he tells him to do, and I don't think that's Aaron Rodgers. So I actually think that it's probably going to be Baker Mayfield for the Raiders, believe it or not. McDaniels loved him coming out of college, and he won't be that expensive. And I think McDaniels thinks he can get him to play at a really high level.
Ross, the Cowboys have made some decisions with their staff. Obviously, Kellen Moore out. It took 10 seconds, and the Chargers are right back in the middle of that. They want him. They got him. Cowboys have changed offensive line coaches. Mike Solari, who's been around a long time, is now the offensive line coach. Jerry Jones today saying McCarthy will call the plays because that's what Jerry says. Your thoughts about what's going on in Dallas?
Yeah, I think it's a disaster. I really do. I am so surprised that so many people in Dallas seem to be down on Kellen Moore. I mean, you guys have to tell me. You're there in Waco, but I believe after Dak came back, first of all, they won every game with Cooper Rush except the game at Philadelphia, who's the most talented team in the league. And even that game, they were right there with Cooper Rush. Then Dak comes back from injury, and they led the NFL in scoring and touchdowns after Dak came back, even though Dak was throwing out interceptions left and right. And it's not like they got some loaded offense. CeeDee Lamb's a good receiver, not a top 5 receiver. Michael Gallup, the number 2 receiver, did nothing. Dalton Schultz is a really solid tight end, but he's not like a top 5 tight end. Pollard's explosive. Zeke's kind of done. O-line's pretty good. I mean, they scored 40 points against the Eagles. 40. I mean, I was thoroughly impressed by Kellen Moore this year. I know people are mad that they didn't score more points against the 49ers. Well, first of all, join the club. Niners defense is very good. Secondly, Dak threw 2 terrible interceptions. And the last time Mike McCarthy called plays in Green Bay, it was not good. I mean, it was not good at all. And he had Aaron Rodgers and good receivers. So I don't see how the Cowboys don't take a step back.
Oh, Ross, I completely agree with you. I mean, even if their record is close to or similar, I mean, how is it going to be better? Like, how can you get better statistically than what they were doing outside of Dak needs a new voice in his ear to get over some of these interceptions, but, you know, they also need to stop doing the thing where they only half address certain issues on the roster. I mean, that's been the bigger thing with the Cowboys is they get almost everything right, but they're afraid to go that extra mile when they feel like they're close. Like they're so afraid of the salary cap that, they're going to re-sign Michael Gallup and trade Amari Cooper for below market value just because of that. And you've got teams like the Rams that, look, they know that they're close and they're going for it, right? So I think that's the biggest difference with the Cowboys. And then Mike McCarthy has to make decisions because they didn't finish out, and it's the coordinators and not really who's responsible.
Yep. And I think it's a really good point. You know, the Amari Cooper trade for the Cowboys was a disaster. Disaster. $20 million a year for Amari Cooper is actually reasonable compared to all these guys getting $25 million. I mean, the Eagles gave up a lot for the right to pay A.J. Brown $25 million. The Raiders gave up a ton for the right to pay Devontae Adams more than $25 million. Same with Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins. All the Cowboys had to do was just keep Amari Cooper. Just keep him for the year. They are one of the worst teams in the NFL at managing the cap. There is no doubt.
Ross, what are your thoughts on the Broncos making the big swing and connecting with Sean Payton as their next head coach?
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me because they're just so heavily invested in Russell Wilson. I think before you give up on that, it makes sense to do whatever you can to maximize what he can do. Maximize whatever they can get out of him. That's exactly what they should do. And so I love the signing. I love the trade because whatever Russell Wilson's capable at this stage of his career, you got to feel like Sean Payton's going to be able to get it out of him. And that's exactly what he's going to try to do.
Ross, you have this very unique myfrontpagestory.com for Valentine's Day. There are some great, I've just went online and, of course, looked through them. We've discussed this with you before. the idea and also let everyone understand what's available that might be different than what, well, okay, it's Valentine's Day, I have to do this?
Well, February's already here. Valentine's Day will be here in less than 2 weeks. Most of you haven't gotten anything for your wives or even thought about it yet, or your significant other, whoever that is. You guys will appreciate this because of your background. To be able to have a professional writer write a story that's all about your significant other and how special they are, they don't even know that's a thing. You know, your wife or whoever, they'll think it's like you went out of your way to come up with this genius idea to have this. Like, they don't even know that you're using a company to do it. Go to myfrontpagestory.com to be able to say, hey, honey, I want to do something special for you this year. So I had a story written about you. It just sounds awesome. And then when she sees it, beautiful, looks like it's on the cover of the newspaper, framed pictures of her and you, or her and you and the kids. It's incredibly emotional. When she reads the quotes from you and the kids, I can almost guarantee she will cry. She'll cry, you'll win, and then she'll have it hanging up in the house forever. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's myfrontpagestory.com. Trust me, fellas, myfrontpagestory.com.
Well, and the one that you have that we sent, that Ivan sent to us, is Front Page Family, Everyone's Oma. And it's kind of a picture, what looks like a grandmother with the grandchild in her lap, and then there's a story. Looks like it's actually whatever newspaper, whatever city you're in, it's set up exactly that way, and it's in a frame, which is even better.
It's awesome, and I actually know that woman, and that's her great-grandchild.
Okay.
And the people that bought that story, they bought that story for her when she left her home to go into a senior care facility because, you know, she was pretty upset about that, right? She didn't want to have to leave her house. And she read that story every day until she passed because it had quotes from all 4 of her children, several of her grandchildren. And, you know, if you're someone that's in your 80s or 90s and you're in a room by yourself, to be able to look at that, read that, see how much everybody loves you every single day. Honestly, man, it's priceless. Like, this is a passion project for me. I love it. It's myfrontpagestory.com.
I know you've got to go. Analyst for Westwood One, CBS, and the Philadelphia Eagles. Your quick thoughts. Eagles and Chiefs Super Bowl 57.
You know, I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I really do. I'm torn on it. You know, on the one hand, the Eagles have the best O-line in the NFL by a lot, the best D-line in the NFL probably. I mean, they got the best corners they've ever had, the best receivers they've ever had, an MVP candidate quarterback. I mean, they're loaded. They're absolutely loaded. You know, I grew up outside of Philadelphia, even though they never wanted me as a player. It's the best Eagles team I've ever seen. The best Eagles team I've ever seen in my life. That doesn't mean they'll win it because I think it'll be a close game. So if it's a close game, man, I just feel like we've seen Mahomes get it done in those situations so many times. You know, it's like Hurts hasn't really had to do that very often. Hurts hasn't really been in that many close games. That's the one place where I kind of give a little bit of an edge to the Chiefs. A lot of it. I mean, Mahomes is the best player on the planet, and the Chiefs have him. So if it's a close game, I have a lot of faith in his ability to make the critical plays late for the Chiefs to get it done.
Ross, thanks for your time. Ross Tucker, the Ross Tucker Podcast. Again, my front page gift, myfrontpagestorygift.com. You can go to that and find what is the unique Valentine's gift. That's Ross Tucker with us on 365 Sports. Right before